you for joining us today for another episode of What's Your Why Wednesday. Today, I am joined by the wonderful Nyala Allen. She is a realtor and owner of High Yield Realty Services, brokered by Keller Williams. I met Nyala at a conference a few months ago, and the moment that I heard her and saw her in action, I knew that I had to learn more and get to know her why. So, Nyala, first off, thank you so much for joining us today. And I'd love to hear, we come into real estate and mortgage sometimes by accident, sometimes deliberately, but what keeps us here is that it's tied to our personal and professional why. So at this moment, I would love for you to share with all of us, what is your why?
Well, thank you, Laura, for the opportunity. And I thank you for having me on your show to experience and share my why. Like you said, sometimes we come into real estate just by accident. I purchased my first home when I was 24. I was a single mother and bought this 3-bedroom, 1-bath ranch style home with this little 4-year-old girl around April of 98, 90, no, 20. It doesn't matter the year, right? And after that experience, I decided, hey, I think this is fun. I want to go ahead and get my real estate license and help other people like my realtor helped me. And fast forward, maybe about 4 or 5 years, I ended up getting my real estate license. And I guess that was before I turned 30. I was working full time at IBM. I had been married by that time. And I I just had my second daughter and decided to get my real estate license, and took the opportunity to, can we pause?
Yes. Okay, at this time, Nyala, we would all love to hear, what is your why?
Well, Laura, thank you again for having me and giving me the opportunity to share my why. And so I'm excited to share my why. As you stated, sometimes we fall into real estate by accident. And I purchased my first home when I was 24. I had a 4-year-old daughter, and it was a 3-bedroom, 1-bath home. And from that experience, I felt like I could help other people purchase their home at a young age. I didn't know if I thought of myself to be young, but I wanted to help other people through the process. I enjoyed it and felt like everyone should be a homeowner. So from that, fast forward some years, I then, like I said, about 4 years, I got my real estate license. I had just had my daughter. I was working full time at IBM as a software engineer, and I was also in the Army Reserves. So on the weekends, I would go to drill once a month. 2 weeks out the year, we'd have training. And I started to promote my business and work part-time. It then evolved. IBM started laying people off. So I was promoted out and started to do real estate full-time. Now that's around 2008, 2009, and I didn't really understand what was going on in the market. So I decided to finish my military career, and I went active duty. And did that until 2012 and medically retired. So after I had medically retired, thinking I was going to finish my military career, I was just like, okay, what is my next chapter? And I was in Pennsylvania at the time, and my husband was relocating to Georgia, and it was like, okay, it's time for you to go back into real estate. It's time for you to go and help other people like you wanted to do so many years ago. So 2016, I had to study for the license again. And 2017, High Yield Realty Services, LLC was born. And I haven't looked back. And now 5 years later, my purpose and mission has evolved even more. With my experience as a veteran, also an Army dependent, my passion and purpose in real estate is to help educate veterans to use their VA loan and their VA benefits when it comes to real estate. I'm very passionate about that and understand my purpose in the industry with that. So starting to evolve into the training aspect of it. So realtors and other real estate professionals, as well as the public, are aware of the VA loan and don't discriminate. So that's a little bit about my why and my purpose and how it has developed. Not that you asked me all of that.
but I love that, Nyala. And thank you for giving us all that context, right? Number one, thank you for your service. And I love the fact that, okay, you were working at IBM, you purchased your home, you get the idea of being a realtor, but also you were dedicated to the Army. And then you said, you know what? I want to actually become active duty, not just a reservist, and leaned in even more. And it's interesting that you are correct. In our lives, our why changes. Although at first, maybe we do something for one reason, but now you have this calling, right? You have this mission that is tied to what you do, of not only helping families go through the process, but now educating veterans, educating mortgage people, educating other realtors. It's not just the veterans, right? It's everyone to understand that. I mean, honestly, I'll say it. I feel we owe our veterans to make sure that they are on a level playing field, that they should never, ever, ever feel that because they're using their benefit, that is a loan that may take longer, or a transaction that may take longer. So therefore, they go on the bottom of the list. That's disgraceful, in my opinion. Right. In my opinion, that's disgraceful for us to view things that way. But it takes people like you and people like me and people like all the people watching this to make sure that we're vocal about this, because that's how it changes. Otherwise, it just keeps remaining the same. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right. So Nyala, my favorite question is, we all have those stories, those special families that just are in our hearts, those ones that maybe it was a little harder for them to get qualified, or maybe that special situation that of purchasing that first home, or that relocation, or whatever that situation may be. But I love for each guest to share one of those special stories with us, one that you'll never forget of a family that you worked with. Can you please share?
Wow, when you say one, it's like a rush of so many that come to mind, right? It's like, so the first person when I returned into real estate was, I would say, the first client that I really remember her being the first time home buyer. I met her in a grocery store. I had 2 bags of lemons, because my uncle was coming into town and he makes this special lemonade, and we call it Uncle Bill's lemonade. And I always joke with him and say, we need to bottle this lemonade because it's so good. And he was coming to see us and visit, and he wanted to show me how to make this lemonade. And the lady was behind me in the grocery store, and I see these 2 little feet come out from the cart, and it was her son. His name is Tyler. And I was like, oh, wow. That story short, we ended up exchanging, I exchanged my business card with her and said, if you ever need any real estate assistance, feel free to call me. She said, I was just thinking about calling somebody. And I said, well, when you're ready, let me know. By the time I took that 8-minute drive back home with my groceries, she had called me and said, you said to call when I'm ready, and I'm ready. And so that is the one that stands out. We ended up going to look at several properties within two different time periods. And she found this house that needed a whole lot of work. And when the inspector came out, it was like, do you still want me to keep going type of house? And she was like, yes, please write up everything. When we get to closing, I had not realized she had a lot of money saved.
Oh.
She had paid off her car at closing. And then when she looked at what her payment was, she said it was $800. Now, granted, this is 5 years ago, so it was $800 a month. Was her mortgage, and she was leaving an apartment. The disclosure documents, it was like, that's a whole lot better than $1,200. I just saved $400 a month, just going through this process. And when she said it, it hit me like a ton of bricks that I impacted this lady's life and her family. And since then, she has been able to save a lot of money and is now starting to talk about investments. She's going to pay off her house this year because of the planning and the diligence that she has put into place. So Miss Thompson, that is the person that comes to mind when I think about the families that I help. You never know who you meet and the impact that you can make in somebody's life just by having a conversation with them. And I talk to her every year. So that's just one of the families.
I love that.
I can give you another.
And listen, for anyone out there that is in mortgage and real estate watching this right now and listening to that, take that as a lesson for Nyala, what she just said, because she said, here I am with my bag of lemons, and my stuff to make some Uncle Bill, was it Bill? Uncle Bill's lemonade. And you're just waiting in line. And because you're just a friendly, kind person, you're having a conversation and you see the little feet, by you and everything. And never, ever, number one, you should speak to all the people around you, regardless of who you are and what you do, because that's how we connected. I spoke up. You were sitting by me and I spoke up. And that is what you should do in any situation. But look at how you changed her life and how she changed your life. Both of you were changed by that impact. And so many times we're like, oh, I feel awkward passing my card or saying who I am. But people want to do business with people that they know, like, and trust. And who better than that friendly person with the lemons, that turned around and had a conversation and made it very welcoming and very kind. Who better than to go into that transaction with, that started as a transaction and turned into a friendship and a partnership, and you became her advisor. That's what you did, which is wonderful. I love that story. I told you that's my favorite question. That is my favorite question. I love those stories. All right, Nyala, you are awesome. I love this. I love where you came from. I love what you're doing. My last question, because we kind of wrap it all up here. What do you want your legacy to be? Whether it's personal, whether it's business, what is your, this is what I want the world to have been changed by the effects of what I do. What do you want that to be?
Well, that's such a heavy question, Laura. As one word that describes me, and I always say, like, impact. When I walk into the room, I want to leave the room and the energy in a better space and place in which I found it. I want to leave the next person feeling positive. I'm a firm believer in what you put out comes back. And so my goal in any situation is to show up as my best self. And when I think about legacy on the family level, I want my two daughters to follow in the footsteps of leaving the room better than when you came in, and being a positive. And that's where I am right now. I'm pretty sure it will evolve to something very philosophical in a few years, but it's just being the best that I am in right now, and making sure I leave the room and people that I encounter in a better space than when they met me.
Number one, I love that word impact, because I do believe that every moment we are impacting others for the good or for the bad. It doesn't always for the good. Sometimes it's for the bad, right? So we have to be aware of those decisions that we make, but don't ever think that anyone out there is not making that impact, because we are. Every decision we make, every conversation, every email, every text, every word that we choose, those words make an impact. That smile makes an impact. That touch makes an impact.
Makes an impact.
Yes,
you're absolutely right.
You are 100%. That is a humongous legacy to leave behind every day. Every day, that is a legacy to have. Well, Nyala, thank you so much for sharing. We will continue to celebrate and support you and keep making a difference out there. And we wish you all the best always.
All right. Thank you. Thank you again for having me, Laura. It has been an honor to have met you. And I'm glad we simply you turned and we connected and we had the conversation, and we will be forever connected because of that. So thank you for speaking to me as well and being impactful to me. Thank you.
All my best.